What's up, everyone? Eric Moore here. I want to talk to you a little bit today about my Ranger RT188. A little bit of the stuff I've done to it, what I think about it. I've had it for probably 3 months now. Been on the lake 3 times a week since I bought it. So a lot of people have questions about it, and there's a lot of videos about it, so I don't want to get too crazy. Mostly everything's covered. I just really want to talk about my opinions of it and things I've ran into, and potential issues it has that may affect whether or not you want to buy it or not. Nothing major, but I definitely like to talk about it. So the first thing most people want to know, including myself, when they're looking at this boat, it's got the Mercury 115 on the back of it, and they want to know how fast it goes. This boat is not the pad hole, it's not the P, it's just a standard Ranger RT188. I usually get, I would say, a safe speed that I would say you're gonna get loaded, unloaded, whatever. I would say it's probably about 45 miles an hour, and I've hit close to 50 in it in perfect conditions, but that's few and far between. When you have somebody else with you, you got your boat loaded down, you might have a full tank of fuel, something like that. I would say you're probably going to run 45, sometimes even 44. Just really depends on the water, wind, and stuff like that. Next thing I want to talk about really is the ride. A lot of people worry about the ride of an aluminum boat, especially in pretty serious waves. My experience with this boat is probably within the 2 to 3 feet wave range. I did slow down when it got up to 2 or 3 feet. Kept it a little bit slower than normal. I was probably running half speed, like you know what I'm saying, like you're supposed to do anyway. 1 foot waves, it did really well at just skimming across the top of it. Like I said, I haven't been out on a giant lake, somewhere like Kentucky Lake or the Great Lakes or something like that. I'm in the South, in South Carolina, so we don't really get those gigantic waves unless there's a storm and and things like that. I would probably say my limit with waves would probably be, I would say probably 3 feet range. Anything like that, I'd probably just stay at home, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's not bad. Like, you're gonna get bounced around and whatnot when you're going through it. You might get a little wet. 1 foot wave range, if you're running with the wind to your side, you get a lot of spray, but I'm sure that's just standard with any boat. But other than that, like I said, nothing major with the ride. It's a little more bumpy than a fiberglass boat for sure, but it's nothing that would stray me away from buying an aluminum boat, or this boat for sure. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised when it came to the ride, especially in rough conditions. And I haven't been in a lot of rough conditions. I would probably say of the last 20 times I've been out, maybe 5 were over 1 foot waves, but it didn't stop me from going. So hopefully that'll help you with that when it comes to the ride of the boat. Next thing I really like to talk about is fuel range. I expected it, but the 115, even running full throttle, it really sips fuel. I mean, I don't run and gun crazy amounts, and the lake I primarily fish on is only probably 5 miles long, and I can run up and down that lake all day and not even think about fuel, to be honest with you. I can't even tell you, in 20 times I've been out, I think I've fueled this boat up 3, maybe 4 times. Like, it really sips fuel compared to a big boat with something like a 250 on the back of it. And that's one thing that I was pleasantly surprised about. If fuel costs and things like that are a concern, like they are for most people, that is one perk of this boat that I can't overstate, is how little fuel it sips. And I think that's important to a lot of people, including myself, and I'm glad I made the decision with this boat when it comes to the fuel. Next thing I want to talk about is storage. In my opinion, the boat's got pretty good storage. I wouldn't say it was plenty. I definitely could use a little more room. So if you have crazy amount of rods or something like that, you could take the rod tubes out of the center rod locker right here. I don't think that's an uncommon thing to do. I think I have 12 rods in my locker right now. I'm just doubling them up in the tubes. Tackle, I would say I'm probably half full right now. I got a kind of like a catch-all box, which is the front console box up here. It's full. I've got 4 or 5 life jackets in it, ropes, throw pillow, you name it is in that box, and it's pretty full. But it's still got more room for sure. It's got 2 in the back. Both of them are insulated. I think they can be used as a cooler. One of them over here kind of keeps, my paperwork, camera stuff, just miscellaneous, kind of like a junk drawer type thing. And then the one over behind me to my right is what I use for my cooler. So storage, I definitely think would be good. Is good. I don't really see any room for anything else. It is an 18-foot boat, but I mean, I'm pleased with it. I'm definitely not knocking the storage. Could it have more? Absolutely. And the other models might. I really haven't looked at boats that hard since I bought this one. I'm kind of just sticking with this and just fishing out of it. So, but like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's got a big live well. I don't want to skip over that. It has a divider if you're fishing a tournament where you need co-angler space, or even if you're fishing on your own, you can have your coal side and your keep side, so the live well is big. The live well is pretty much the size of any other boat. No problems at all with the live well. I hadn't used it yet. I haven't fished any tournaments yet out of it, but it's definitely great. Right here, you got an auto aerator. You can turn on manual for your live well too. You put it on manual to fill it up. I've heard a lot of people ask about that, and I had to look it up myself. Is you had to put it on manual to fill the live well up. And then, while we're talking about the pumps in the console, it's got an automatic bilge, and it has a bilge that you can select if you just want to see if it's working, or you think it needs to work, or something like that. And I really do like those 2 features of this boat. Another one I can't skip over at all is the remote plug. It has an in-out switch on the back. It is awesome. Like, if I'm not gonna say I've never forgotten my plug. That's a terrible thing to say, but I haven't forgotten to put my plug in the boat since I've had it. But if I did, I could just walk back there and flip the switch and the plug would be in. You wouldn't have to worry about running fast down the lake with your bilge on and then jumping in the water and putting the plug in thing like you used to have to do. You just flip the switch, throw on the bilge, let it pump out, and you're fine. But yeah, other than that, the storage is great. I think that's everything really. With the last thing, that's not everything, is the breakaway hitch. This boat's 18 foot 8 inches long, and with the hitch out, it's probably 20 feet long. But when the breakaway hitch goes, you undeployed it, and it actually breaks away, it drops the size of this boat down to like 19 foot 8 on the trailer, which is awesome. I keep mine, I don't have a shop right now. We just moved not long ago. I keep it covered up where I'm sitting, and it doesn't take up hardly any room. We have a space over here for it, and that breakaway hitch is awesome. That's one feature that I really love, and I can't say enough about. So if you're looking for something and you're worried about space, this is something I would highly consider. Like I said, I would look at any space you'd probably need at least about, with the engine on the back, you probably 20 feet would fit. You might have to take the transom saver off or something like that, but you could fit it in somewhere 20 feet for sure. And but yeah, I think that's all I got for the pluses. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the minuses. There's not many, but there are definitely a few things that I'd like to talk about that I want people to be aware of. The first one, and it's the main one for me, and I've done a lot of research on it, is the 2 front, and all 3 boxes up front, rod locker and both storage lockers beside it, they don't leak, but they have humidity issues. And a lot of the times, or almost all the time, I go to get tackle out or something like that, everything in that box is kind of damp. And I live in a humid climate. Like I said, I'm in South Carolina, so humidity is high pretty much all the time. Maybe not in the winter time, but in summertime it's, sometimes it's 100%. And every time I go into one of these boxes, my stuff's wet. I've kept reels of wire in there, not wire, reels of line, and in the box, and the boxes are tore apart because they're so wet, you know. And you can add venting to them, from what I understand, you know, just by researching online and stuff like that. But that's something that I think a lot of people should know about, where they don't leak. You know, I've looked all over the place when I first got it, and I noticed stuff was wet, but the humidity issues in the boxes are pretty, I wouldn't say they're substantial, but it's something you need to know about. I have reels of line in there now that aren't wet. You know, I went to the lake yesterday evening, and they're not wet. It just depends on the humidity, but they do have a lot of humidity in them, and a lot of times when I pull out my tackle, everything's damp, and that's both boxes. You know, it's to the point where I actually keep my rain gear in a dry bag in the locker. They don't leak when it rains or anything like that, but the humidity in them builds enough to make your stuff wet. So that's something I think most people should know about. I wouldn't put anything in these boxes that you're worried about getting hurt. Like, I wouldn't put, you know, a camera in here for a long period of time in any of the 3 front boxes, because they do have humidity issues. And maybe that's something Ranger can look at, or they've already fixed it. I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't really looked at any boats lately, you know, Ranger boats or anything like that. You know, like I said, they can be solved with adding vents, but that's not something I'm really interested in doing. It's not that bad of a problem, but I think it needs to be known that they're dry boxes and they won't get wet in the rain, or if you can, you know, water splashes or anything like that, but they build humidity, and a lot of times they stay damp to the point where I get a reel out that hadn't been used in a week, you know, and I hadn't even been to the lake. A lot of times it's damp. So definitely consider that when you're looking at buying this boat. So after that, it's pretty much quality of life stuff. The Ranger RT188P, I know, fixes quite a few of the issues that I had. Truthfully, the RT188P wasn't in my budget at the time I bought my boat, but the cup holders on the console, I think it has a hot foot. If it doesn't, I did install a hot foot on my 188. But other than that, the hot foot is the only thing I would really like the boat to come with. You know, most people are probably going to get one installed anyway, but it's a huge quality of life and a huge safety thing when you can use both hands on the wheel. Once you're trimmed up and all that, going down the lake, you know, I think that's a big deal. As for stuff I've done to my boat, I've added 2 Garmin EcoMap Ultra 2s, the 10 inches. I replaced the stock Minn Kota Edge trolling motor that it came with a Minn Kota Ultrex, and then, you know, mainly did that for spot lock. That's a pretty big deal in an aluminum boat, being able to lock down on one spot, you know, if you're fishing with your trolling motor, and just be able to worry about that. Of course, added live scope. You got to have it nowadays if you're going to compete in tournaments or anything like that, and I do plan to do that. Coming back around, I would like to talk a little about how the boat acts in the wind. It does get blown around a little bit having a light boat like this. I know a lot of people do have questions about that, and it's a major concern when it comes to an aluminum boat. It gets blown around a little bit. My only recommendation is, especially if you're trying to fish a certain spot, that you should be, you know, when there's any type of wind, it's just be trying to, you know, into the wind. Point the boat into the wind. Make sure you're lined up where you can point with your bow into the wind, and you can use your trolling motor to hold the spot. If you do that, it's not really an issue. You still get moved around a little bit, but you can hold your spot for the most part. Last thing, as for updates and upgrades I want to do, the main one that will happen in the future is power poles or shallow water anchors. I think those are pretty huge, especially on those windy days and stuff like that, where you're in 10 feet or less of water. You can even get them to 12, but I wouldn't get 12 feet. You know, like 10 feet or less, power pole down, you can still use your live scope, and you look around with your trolling motor and not have to worry about not being able to use your trolling motor because of spot lock. So that's definitely going to come. Another quality of life issue, and one thing I'm going to add, is another rod strap on the console side of the boat. The boat, to be honest with you, is not fast enough where I worry about blowing anything off, so I do put some rods over there sometimes and just let them ride. I know I can eat those words one day and lose some rods, but sometimes that's what I do, is they just ride over there. Like I said, you don't, that 45 to 50 range, it's tough to really blow anything off. Like, it won't blow my hat off kind of thing. You're moving fast, but not quite fast enough to worry about that. I strap my rods down on the left side over here where the rod bungee is. I'm gonna probably just put another one on the right side just for safety of my equipment. And then if you got rods over to my left, it's got 4 spots for like a co-angler, and you can strap those down if you can see where I'm looking at over here. But yeah, other than that, I enjoy the boat. I like it a lot. I do see myself keeping it for a while, and there's always the potential, if I do upgrade, it might be to another aluminum boat. I really like the Ranger 208 Alpha. I think it's got a 200 or a 150 on the back. To get some more speed, I've watched some videos of it. It'll do in the high 60s. So, but yeah, if you got any questions or want to know anything about the RT188, feel free to comment below, and just ask me, and I'd be happy to ask or answer. If I miss anything, like I said, just ask me. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully I could help you out, maybe potentially purchasing your own RT188. Thank you.